what's difficult about it, Amani? For me, it's not so much of the beating. The beating is horrible, but it is that it's 5 black men saw one of their own. It's always a whole lot of people being shot and killed. Nothing is ever done about guns in this country.
It's white supremacy. Like, it all comes from white supremacy. It all trickles down. And unfortunately for some cishet black men, they want to be as close to white supremacy as they can, because I guess they feel like if they align closely with it, like, it won't affect them. But in this particular case, these guys who did this saw that it don't matter how much you try to infiltrate the system and become a part of this institutionalized racism, it's never going to protect you anyway. When times get tough, you need to get proud. No need to look backward, put your feet on the ground. Stand up, stand up.
Welcome to The Fallen State. I am Jesse Lee Peterson. Thank you so much for being with me. Remember that The Fallen State is now on locals.com. So click the link in the description to support our work. I absolutely appreciate it. I have with me, don't forget that The Fallen State, you can become a member on YouTube channel there, right? To help support our work. I have with me Amani Wells-Onyioha. She is a partner and operating director of Soul Strategies, a Democratic campaigning organization. Amani, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I do appreciate it. So exactly what do you do?
Yes, so our organization does a lot of the hands-on campaign work on different races all across the country and all up and down the ballot. So we do fundraising like call time, we do social media, digital, email strategy, and content creation. We do field organizing, so all the door-to-door stuff where you see people knocking on doors and dropping literature off at your house and all that. We do that work. And we have a press team too, so we do PR, crisis management, press releases, and then we get people like local and national press coverage for the races.
Do you work for both parties, Republicans and Democrat?
We only work with Democrats.
And why is that?
Because we're Democrats.
You're a Democrat. And why are you a Democrat? I notice that a lot of blacks are Democrat, most blacks are Democrats. And knowing that the Democratic Party hate them, why are you a Democrat?
I don't think the Republicans like us any better. I feel like...
When you say any better, what do you mean?
Any better than the Democrats.
So you do recognize that the Democratic Party hate the blacks?
They don't hate the blacks, but have they not done the best at advocating for us? That's true. Do they attempt to? Do they try? Yes. And do I think that we'll have a better chance with the Democrats in getting some of the representation that we deserve? Yes. But yeah, the Republican Party does not have a home for me either, I don't think.
Really? And why not? Why not with the Republican Party?
Well, I can speak for Texas specifically. There's just a lot of racism, to be honest with you, like blatant racism. And we could talk about covert and overt racism and the undertones of that type of stuff. But for the people who are the most overtly racist and oppressive, particularly in Texas, those people are, or not even the people, because the base is a whole different thing, but those legislators are typically Republican legislators. So if I've seen, legislation in Texas, for instance, that they're trying to repeal like the Voting Rights Act of 1964, that would directly affect Black people. I don't support that, so I can't support a party that would even think of doing something like that.
Really? So you believe that the blacks need a Voting Rights Act in America today in order to vote?
Yeah, that's just the history of it, because we didn't always have the right to vote. The black males had the right to vote, but whenever the Voting Rights Act of 1964 came in, that gave black women the right to vote. It gave other people who typically were eliminated from the process the right to vote. So definitely needed to stay intact, because when you start to repeal things like that, it's a slippery slope, and we see, how that typically goes.
But at one time, no, women were not allowed to vote, period, not just black women, women, period. Was that racism?
That is sexism and misogyny and patriarchy and a whole lot of stuff. Okay. And there's intersections of that, right? You can have misogyny and misogynoir, which is racism, and sexism against black women. Some of these things kind of overlap. So it's a little bit of everything.
Really? Have you noticed that since women have been given the right to vote, that the country going to hell in a handbasket?
Absolutely
Because
not.
women don't make good decisions.
And
It's
what
not,
evidence do you have to support that stance?
if you notice that, for example, in the Democratic Party, since they got more women representatives, the blacks are relying on government more. They are relying on free stuff. They want reparations. They want everything free.
And that's because of
And
women?
because they have more women voters. I know they have black men in there too, but mostly women. And women tend to approve stuff like that, like abortion and all that. They tend to be emotional because women live in their imagination and emotion. And the decisions are made on how they feel and not what is right, the best thing.
I have to disagree with that. Women are still the minority in Congress and in the Senate, so there's still less women than there are men. So the people who have the majority to vote and the most power are still men. And we talk about women being emotional when it comes to decision making, but historically women didn't have rights or access to be able to make those decisions. And we still went to wars. We still have famine. We still had disenfranchisement when women didn't even have power. So to say that things have gotten worse when we've seen society progress since women have been a part of the picture just isn't valid, in my opinion.
But have you noticed that there are things that are happening in the country today that when men were ruling would not be? It would not, like
what?
same-sex marriage and abortion and all that.
Yeah.
It would not be, but as soon as women get in position of power, those things come about because women, again, they tend to be emotional and they tend to go the wrong way if they're not led by men.
I completely disagree with that 100%. People have been having abortions. Abortion is even in the Bible. Like, abortion just became safer, and we started to medically regulating it. But if a person doesn't want to have a kid, they're not going to have it. And sometimes they often take their own life trying not to have a baby because they're not ready. So that's not the responsibility of women making that legal. Like, that's just something that's been happening for decades. As far as same-sex marriage, there are males who are gay. Shocker.
I know, and that's nothing.
That's gay men.
It's nothing wrong with if they want to be that way, if women want to have an abortion, but they just shouldn't pass laws to approve it because people that are for that, they're not self-contained. They're not, they lose self-control. So we need physical laws to contain the lawless.
Absolutely not. I believe in, and I think that's something that I share with some people who are on the right? I believe in personal autonomy and I believe in freedom.
Right.
And so if you want to have freedom to make your own choices, I believe in that. If you don't want to have an abortion or if you don't want to be gay, then you don't have to. But those who have that lifestyle or who are that way because that's how they were born, that's freedom.
I know, but why pass, and you're right, but why pass a law for it?
Because you have to protect it. We can't have people, again, we don't believe in taking away people's freedoms. We believe in the freedom to have the Second Amendment. We believe in the freedom to vote. There's a lot of things that we have constitutionally that are protected in the Constitution. So why should we protect certain things like our Second Amendment right to bear arms and not protect, access to health care, women's health care, or not protect access to marrying who you choose to marry?
Before they passed law to allow women to kill the man's children in her womb, women were doing abortion, they were just doing it privately. They would do it at home.
And a lot of women died because of that. And so we're a modern society.
That's a risk you take.
But it's a modern society.
And they have the right to, have an abortion at home or wherever, and if they lose their life, they take that risk.
But we have to think about medical. This is a medical issue. Before we had laws to sterilize medical equipment, people were doing open heart surgery without proper regulations. Like, as society evolves around us, we have to put things in place that protect people.
But abortion is not a medical issue.
It's literally a medical issue.
Abortion is when a woman decides, you know what, I want to kill this man's baby. I don't want to have no baby.
Is it that man's baby or is it her own baby too?
She made that decision to do it. It's not like she had to do it. It's not like a
Right.
medical issue.
Sometimes
so if she
you do
decides
have
to
to.
do it, that's fine.
Sometimes you do have to. The state of Texas, 5 women are suing the state of Texas because of medical abortions that they weren't able to have. They were pregnant, they lost the child in their womb due to no fault of their own, and they were forced to carry babies that were dead in their womb. And some of those women experienced sepsis. They almost died because of it, the internal bleeding because of it, and they were not able to have a medical procedure that would save their life. So there are instances where abortion is quite literally a life-saving thing, and it's necessary that we have access to that.
What's important to you?
As far as?
Period.
Oh, so many things. Like I said, freedom. I believe the main thing that's important to me is for people to be able to have the type of life that leaves them happy, fulfilled, financially secure and stable, healthy, educated, all of those things.
You support the Second Amendment?
In some ways, yeah.
You believe that people who want guns should have the right to carry a gun, right?
In certain instances. I do believe
But
in
you
background
restrict their
checks.
freedom in some place?
Yeah, absolutely.
And why?
What do you mean?
But you said you believed in freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't they have the right? Why don't we all have the right to carry weapons whenever we want?
Freedom
any kind that we
within
want?
reason. Freedom within reason.
But
There's
how are you going to
necessities.
determine what is reason for someone else?
Just like we determine what is reason for a lot of stuff. Why do we have, why do you get a speeding ticket for going too fast? Who decided that we have to drive 60 miles an hour? Like,
That's right.
Just like you said, we can't
You're
have
right
a
about
lawless
that.
society, right? We talked about having to put constraints on things and making sure things aren't lawless. That's one of those things as well. So yeah, if you want to have a handgun to protect yourself, sure. Should you have to go through a background check? Should you be able, we always talk about how mental health is the reason why these mass shootings happen. Shouldn't we make sure people are mentally competent before they have a gun? So again, this is all, like you said, society, there's certain things that we have to be able to control. And yeah, we can't have complete lawlessness, to your point, to where we're just letting people do anything.
So then you would agree, if you believe in that, you would agree that a woman should not be allowed to kill the man's child after she get pregnant.
I don't
because
believe
if
that.
you let her do it afterward, she wanted to do it after the 6 months. She wanted to do it after the 9 months.
And that's after the 9 months is murder, because
Right.
once you're 9 months, the baby is viable
Before,
outside the womb.
during the
So
ninth
you
month,
can't kill a live
during
baby.
the 9th month, they would want to do it too if you let them.
You can't.
And
That's not true.
But they would carry it there. As a matter of fact, I believe it's Chicago. I could be wrong. They was talking about letting a woman do it, even if she's about to have the baby and she decides she didn't want it, she could abort the baby then.
That's not realistic, or that doesn't happen often. Most women have abortions
You
before
said
they're
often, but it
even-
happens sometimes?
Only time people have an abortion that late in their pregnancy is if the mother's life is at risk, and if the baby will not be able to survive outside of the womb. There must be some other medical issue going on to where aborting the baby was the only thing to do to preserve the woman's life, or something like that. Those are usually the only instances where an abortion has happened that late. Most women have abortion before even 8 to 10 weeks. Very, very early on, still in the very early phases of the first trimester.
Should she be allowed to have an abortion without the father's permission?
Absolutely.
Because she's killing his child.
And her child too. It's
And the
50-50.
father and the baby belong to them both. Should she be allowed to do that without the father's permission?
Absolutely, because it's still her body that has to go through 9 months of pregnancy. And as you know, pregnancy isn't easy on a woman's body. As you know, particularly Black women are 4 to 5 times more likely to die giving birth. And people lose their teeth, people lose their hair. Being pregnant isn't just like some walk in the park. So if a woman wants to choose that she doesn't want to risk her life and be 4 to 5 times more likely to die, if she doesn't want that responsibility, she can make that choice. Men don't die from pregnancy because men don't have babies. So
But
it's
why
more
should
to it
she
than
have
that.
to be allowed to kill the baby if it belongs to him too? Because it wasn't for the father, she couldn't get pregnant.
Because it's her
And
body.
all she does is carry the baby. The father do the work. He
It's
don't want
not
to put the baby
all
there, right?
she does.
And all she does
Carrying
is carry
a baby
it.
is a lot, like I said. It's a toll on your body. Giving birth isn't a walk in the park, and I think you can ask any woman who's given birth that it's not easy. So yes, you donated your seed. That's great.
Not
But
donated. You
that's
put
good.
it there. If he didn't put the bread in the oven, there would be no bread.
Sure. And
Right.
if there was no oven, there would be no bread. So
Right. That's all she does is bake the bread, keep it there. Let me ask, you believe that, let me just ask this. I've noticed, and you can correct me, ma'am, I'm seeing it wrong. I noticed that the Democratic representatives, the party itself, they, as I mentioned earlier, they don't respect blacks. They think that blacks are not capable enough to do it for themselves. So they offer them affirmative action and reparations and things like that. They think that the blacks can't take care of themselves, so they're lowering the standards in order to get into a white university. They're now telling the blacks that they don't have to take the test because they can't pass the white man's test. They think that the blacks, rather than having a father and mother in the home, they offer them government. They don't believe that the blacks are capable. And what I don't understand about that, and since you're involved in strategizing for them, what I don't understand, why do the blacks accept themselves being treated that way? Like they just can't do it. They're lowering the whole, even to get in certain jobs and things, they're lowering the standards for the blacks so that they can get it, otherwise they won't get it. I don't understand why the blacks put up with that.
Those type of things are just kind of balancing the scales from things that happened decades before. So as you know, slavery happened. It wasn't that long ago, as you know.
Over 150 years ago.
And my mother, not my grandmother, my mom went to a segregated school. So it's not that long ago.
I did too.
Okay, so you understand. It's not like this is distant.
But blacks were better off then. They didn't beg, they didn't blame.
Let's see. So back after World War II, there was a period in the United States, about 20 to 30 years, where when people came back from the war, they were given home loans that they had no interest or didn't even have to pay back. They were given cars, they were given free college education, they were given all of these things that purposely excluded black people. So there was a time in this country where white people got handouts, but we didn't call it that. Back at the time, the GI Bill, all of those funds, we didn't call it a handout, we called it an opportunity. And when people look back on that time, they look back on that time, a lot of white people, as a very happy time because they got a leg up in the country, they got a fresh start, they got the money and the support that they needed to build the generational wealth that they have today. And black people didn't have access to it. They were literally purposely excluded because of racism, because of Jim Crow, because of all of these things that purposely left us out and did not give us access to the same type of help that white people did.
Where did you get that information from? Because it's not true. Where did you get that from?
The GI Bill, you should look it up.
I know black men who went to the military, they got the GI Bill too. It wasn't just the white. I have family members who went to the military, they got the GI Bill. Yeah. When they got out, they were able to go to school and they were able to purchase. Some were,
but a lot of them were excluded.
They were able to purchase a home and things like that. And they were black, right? So I'm trying to figure out where you get that information from because it's not true.
It's just true. We can agree to disagree, but
I grew up in Alabama when the Jim Crow law existed, and that what you said wasn't true.
Yeah, my family
black
grew up
people
in
were
Texas.
doing better during the Jim Crow law than they are today because they weren't begging and blaming, and the country didn't have to lower the standards to let them in.
It's not lowering the standards, it's giving people access. We know right now, literally recently in Texas, there was a job posting that went out where people were sending clone resumes, same exact resume, you just put a black name on it and a white name on it, and the white people were still getting the job or getting called for interviews when the black name wasn't. Like, this is 2023. So, racism exists.
Why would a company want to hire a person with a black name? They know that that's trouble.
Why is that trouble?
Because when the blacks change their name to black names, they're saying out loud, well, we hate white folks. We're not going to work with them. We're not going to get along. And so I would never hire anyone with a black name.
Well, that's bias.
Because I know that you're bringing in trouble. This person's already want me to get along with my white employees and things like that.
Well, that's internalized racism.
I wouldn't hire that.
That's your choice.
You know what I mean?
Bias.
So why would a company want to hire someone that you know already going to bring trouble?
That's not true. I'm Nigerian. I have a Nigerian name. Amani Wells-Onyioha is a Caucasian name.
But you grew up in America, though. You didn't grow up in Nigeria.
And there's a lot of black people who have ethnic names who grew up in America. So what's the difference?
But why would a company want to hire a black with a black name?
Why not?
No, I'm asking. I just told you why not, because it's trouble.
Why is it trouble? Black people are trouble? Is that your
When
opinion?
they change their name to abnormal names like black names, they're saying they're angry. They are.
If we don't change our name, last time I checked, I didn't choose my name.
I know,
was
but
given
your
my
mother,
name at birth.
your folks are from a different country, So
My
of
mom
course,
is from here.
but your father's from there, right? It's of course they're going to have different names. I'm talking about the blacks who were Americans and they had American names at one time. You believe that? Oh, so you think that it's okay that the reason that you are a Democrat and no problem with it, you're okay with them lowering the standards for the blacks?
They're not lowering the standards for
What
the
would you
blacks.
call it? Because these people are
They're
not qualified.
If you're not qualified, then you won't get the job. But
But-
if you have the qualifications,
But
if
the
you have the
qualified person
resume,
is the person that can pass the test,
if you can pass
not the one that
test.
can't pass the test.
There's a lot of black people who have had affirmative action who have passed the test and are very educated. They have master's degrees. They have high GPAs.
But how would
they
you know
pass
that,
the
though,
test.
since you know that they only get into these schools based on color?
They're not
And so
only getting into the schools
the
based on
standards
color.
been lowered so the blacks can get in. So you have to assume that all the blacks are just getting in because, not because of qualification, but because of affirmative action.
It's just not true.
Is that true?
It's not true.
Okay. You believe that there are benefits to having a more progressive leadership that is willing to change the law for working class people, such as raising the minimum wage. Are you okay if you had a business, your own business? Would you be okay with the government telling you in your own private business that you have to raise the minimum wage?
I have my own private business because
you
I'm
do?
a partner at this firm, so I do own a portion of the firm. And we unionized our staff. We told them, hey, y'all should unionize. And we did their union negotiation in 2 days. We gave them good wages, they got medical, and we are bound by that union contract, and it goes up every year, and we have to reaffirm it, and we did it, and it's fine.
You wouldn't have done it had not you got in a union? You
We
wouldn't have
had it
naturally
anyway.
done that?
Yeah, we told them to unionize.
No, if they had not gotten a union, you would not have paid them for what they were worth?
We were still paying them really well. We just wanted just to have that partnership with the union to hold us accountable. We were already paying them well. They already had great wages. So when it came down to negotiate, we ratified our union contract in 2 days. It didn't take long because we had already been providing the things that they would have wanted. So
And you say you needed the union to hold you responsible?
we don't need them to, but we're not afraid of it. What's the
But
problem?
why, if you were going to do the responsible thing, why did you need a union? I don't quite
We
understand.
didn't need it, but our staff, people want it. Like, people like to be unionized. They like to have the backing of a union. So yeah, they're here. They're our partners in it, and it's working out great.
But I don't quite understand, because if you guys were going to do the right thing anyway, and the staff knew that, why would they want a union? Because now they have to pay union dues.
We told them to unionize.
Now
and
they have to
wanted
pay union dues.
And they're happy.
They may get a raise, but that raise going to go toward the union dues, which benefit the unions to go to the Democratic representatives to help support the Democrats to get what they want to get.
Yeah, we can be transparent. Union dues are 0.08% of our staff's paycheck. And that's something that they wanted to do. Again, they formed the union. They voted on it. That's what they wanted to do because they wanted that type of protection, and we were cool with it. It doesn't cost them much. It probably cost them $20 a paycheck, but you got the whole backing of a huge union behind you, which is great for them. And they wanted that, and we was cool with it.
That's amazing. You want to stop union busting. Why?
Why would you union bust?
Why do you want to stop union busting?
Because if people want access to better wages, health care, time off, sick leave, they should be able to have that. And busting the union oftentimes interferes with their ability to have access to those things. For instance, if the corporation themselves or the company or whoever doesn't want to give you things that you need, like sick days, basic things, we all get sick, none of us are perfectly immune, then you should be able to have access to those things and don't stand in the way of an entity that's trying to provide those type of protections for workers.
All of my life, I worked for different companies before I started my own thing. And I never worked for a company where they didn't give you time off, vacation time, sick time. And if you need to be off, they'll let you go and take care of your business. Where did that idea come from that companies don't do that and you need a union?
There's some, unions have been here long before either of us were
Yeah, I know
alive.
that,
So
you're right. Yeah.
a long time
time
ago. And America was, again, better back then when we had union strength because a lot of the sneaky things that some corporations and some businesses do. Like I said, I'm a business owner myself, so I understand that there are some businesses and corporations who are cool with giving people paid time off, bereavement, all of that. But then there are some people who try to skip corners. Like we had the big thing with Palestine, Ohio, and the labor workers. They were not given paid sick days. Like, why? In 2023, are we not giving people paid sick days? So there are some industries that don't do the basic things that you grew up on and that I've known most of my jobs to offer. Some people don't. So in those instances where we know that those are basic things that everybody needs, then you should be able to fight for those things.
Most of the time, the employees that are complaining are the ones that you should have working for you anyway. Cause
sometimes.
They show up late. They halfway do a job and they're complaining. And the reason I know that because I work for a different company, but I used to work for a union and we were trained to go to the employee that was complaining about the job situation, not showing up for work on time or not coming to work a lot, and get them to help get you into the company so you can convince the other employees to join the union. And it's not that the union care about the people. The union care about the money, and they'll live it high on the hog while the employees are paying their salary, by way of union dues. It's not like they care about them; they just care about the money and the perceived power that they're getting. Do you think that unions care about you?
Sometimes.
No, they don't.
Yeah. I'm the queen of.
I work for them.
I feel you. Two things can be right at the same time. You ever heard that phrase?
What's that?
Two things can be right at the same time.
No.
There are some people who are in unions for the power and the money, and then at the same time, there are some employees who need protection and better wages. Two things can be true at the same time.
But the ones that say they need it are the ones that should be fired anyway.
Sometimes.
Right.
But sometimes
you know what I mean?
it's not. Yeah.
Amazing. And so, the union in the older days, I think they may have meant well, but the unions today are no good. They're just one-sided union for the Democratic Party, and they can care less about the people. I'm not for the unions. Especially since I work for them and I know the thinking of the unions. And they go out and they convince the people, you need more money, you need this, and you need that. And when the people think that they're going to get more, they're for it, but they end up getting nothing. It's the union that does it. You believe that overturning Roe versus Wade has put us in a dangerous space for overcoming civil rights acts such as the Marriage Equality Act and the Voter Rights Act. We talked about that earlier. Where was Wade overturned? Roe versus Wade overturned?
Where?
When did it get overturned?
In 2022, I believe, yeah.
And who overturned it?
The Supreme Court.
They didn't overturn it. All they did was give it back to the states so that the states can make decisions about it. They did not overturn it at all. Women still can go and kill the man's baby. They
Not
just wanted it
everywhere.
back in the hands of the state because the U.S. court should not have had it in the beginning.
Okay. I disagree
About what?
that the U.S. court shouldn't have had it in the beginning. I do
The
believe
U.S.
that
Supreme Court shouldn't have had it.
they should not be able to unilaterally make a decision like that to be able to undo it. And I do believe there need to be federal protections for abortion and federal law that codifies Roe v. Wade and codifies abortion access and health care. So I believe that this is something that federally should be done. I don't think it should be a state's issue because you see how some states are being with these abortion laws and some of them are outrageous.
But you do understand that the U.S. Supreme Court did not overturn Roe versus Wade, right?
No.
They just turned it back over to the states.
They overturned it and turned it back over to states.
When did they overturn it? Though? They did not overturn it. They didn't say, if the U.S. Supreme Court had said abortions are illegal,
They don't have that power.
it would be illegal.
They don't have that power because it wasn't
So they
allowed.
didn't overturn it.
They did.
You mentioned the civil rights movement. Did you know that the civil rights movement was, other than abortion, the worst thing that ever happened to the blacks?
No, I don't agree with that.
And why not?
I don't see why it would be the worst thing to ever happen to the blacks. Being able to have desegregation and being able to be treated like a full and equal human in society, although we still have our issues and systematic racism still exists, a lot of good came from the civil rights era.
I grew up in Alabama, as I said, during the time that so-called Jim Crow law existed. I remember for colors on it, for whites on it, blah, 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 kind of water fountain and all that. But the blacks were doing better then than they are today in that they bought land, they owned homes, they went to universities if they wanted to, they had trades, when the kids left home, graduated, left home, they started businesses, they bought homes. And the Jim Crow law existed. But it brought the best out of the blacks because they had to do for themselves, right? They couldn't blame someone else. And they did the best. They would be like the Jews are today had not the civil rights movement happened. And but when the civil rights movement happened, the blacks gave up their families for the government. They gave up their becoming an individual for the so-called black leaders like Martin Luther King and Jesse Lee, all those people. They turned their lives over to them. And those people told them, racism is this, y'all can't make it. Y'all need us, y'all need this. And the blacks have gone downhill ever since. They have never returned back to normal. Have you noticed that?
I completely disagree with that.
Why?
It's just
what
not
part
true.
of that you disagree with?
How have blacks gone downhill? Black women, particularly, are the most educated demographic of people in the whole country. In 2023, that's an improvement because there were times where we weren't even allowed to go to school prior to, certain things being protected.
When were you not allowed to go to school? There were
women.
As a result of the segregation, they were creating black universities and things like that, which brought out the best in blacks then. And then the education that they were getting is much better than the education they're getting out of black schools because, how black folks are, they don't care. But
I disagree.
the education was no good. And if you notice, the black women who are getting the so-called education, it's putting them on a false pedestal, and they think they're better than everybody. Now they're lonely, they're lost, they're angry, and nobody want to deal with them. So they got worse rather than getting better.
I completely disagree. I know plenty of black women who are happily married and educated. I'm going to my friend Tati's wedding next weekend. Black woman, black man.
She
has a master's degree, and she's getting married a black man.
But educated women don't make for good wives and good mothers.
I completely disagree with that.
Why is that?
It's just not true. It's sexist. It's a lot of misogyny in there, and it's just not true.
What's not true about that?
Why does education stop you from being a good mother? Explain to me why having education means you're not a good mother.
Because a woman that's educated, she thinks she's equal to a man, and so she's gonna want to go to work. She's gonna try to make the man become the woman at the house. She's not gonna want to obey her husband.
Why would a man become a woman because a man, is he not also going to work?
Because a woman that's educated think that she should work and not be at home raising his children and clean, keeping the house going and things like that. And they don't care about the children. Educated women don't care about the children. They'll rather throw them off in a daycare center just so they could get their ego fulfillment. So they don't really make for good wives and good mothers.
Yeah, I completely disagree with that.
Why do you disagree with that?
Because it's just not true. I know a lot of women who are educated. My mother was very educated. She went to school and she raised me well to now I too have a master's degree. I have my pick of the litter. There are plenty of men that want me. I can guarantee you that. And I have my own business, so it works.
But you haven't mentioned what's good about internet. None of that.
I think she raised
at all that's a good thing.
She raised a happy, healthy, functioning adult that was able to grow a business while being educated and
nothing good about that.
What's wrong with it? What's bad about it?
We're talking about a woman staying home and raising a man's children.
You're not explaining your point on how that makes her a bad mother. Like, where does she go wrong?
By trying to fulfill her ego.
But where
thinking
did
that
it
she's
not
equal
work?
to a man, rather than having the love of raising a man's children, being there for the children and being there for the.
Are you saying that women who have an education can't raise their kids?
Right.
Why?
Because they are on an ego trip. They try to go to prove that they are like a man.
Who raised me?
Would you ever? Are you planning to get married one day?
Yeah.
Would you ever obey your husband?
Sure.
You would stay home. You would let all this education stuff go.
Yeah, I'm not staying at home.
Why?
Because I don't want to.
Well, why get married if you don't love your husband and your children enough to stay home and watch over his children?
I don't even want children, so
you don't want children?
I'm going to be married with my husband, traveling the world, and living my best life.
So why get married then?
Why
you
not?
could do that.
I want partnership and companionship. I want to build, again, marriage does come with certain things, like you are tied to that person, you can buy homes together, you have better credit, your taxes is lower. There's a lot of benefits to marriage that aren't based on having children.
But those are selfish benefits.
So I'm selfish.
Oh, see, yeah. And you were raised by a single woman, right?
I was raised by a married woman.
But she didn't stay home,
So,
right? She didn't stay home and raise you.
what's your
I
point?
rest my case.
What's your point? I feel like it worked. I'm fine. Like if your argument were true, that would mean that my mother would have had to fail in some way, right? That would have meant that she didn't do a good job raising me, that I had some sort of troubles, I wasn't able to succeed in life, and that like her status, because eventually my parents did get divorced, and that did not have a negative effect on me being able to grow up and
Did
become
they
a
get divorced
successful,
while you were
thriving-
young?
Yeah,
While you were still living at home?
correct.
Oh, I thought you said you were raised by both parents.
For a little bit. Then they got
So
divorced.
you weren't raised by both parents. See, I told you, educated women don't make for good wives and good mother. And
disagree.
now you're an adult. If you got married, number one, you're not going to obey your husband. Number two, you don't want to have children. There's no reason to get married.
To you.
Because you can party by yourself like that. You have friends, and you can take your male friends with you and everything.
To you.
Isn't that right?
To you, there's no reason to get married to you, but there's going to be, for me, I still see a reason.
Do you believe, did you go to a black university?
No.
Which one you went to?
University of North Texas.
North Texas. Do you believe that a woman should stay home and raise the man children?
I believe that women are allowed to make whatever choice makes them the most happy, feel the most fulfilled, and feel the most safe. If they're staying at home, then stay at home. If you don't want to, then you don't have to.
Do you believe that they should stay at home and raise the man children?
If they want to. I don't believe, again, we talked about freedom. I really believe in freedom. So I believe
Right.
in, if that's what a woman wants to do you, boo. And if you don't, then don't.
But do you believe she should, since she got married, she should obey her husband and stay home and raise his children?
I believe she should do whatever she wants. That's what I believe.
And not what he wants?
Correct.
Really, not what her husband wants?
Right. As a husband should do whatever he wants to do because we're autonomous people with freedom, right?
Do you believe that a woman should obey her husband?
She should do whatever she wants to do. Whatever works in
No,
the
I'm asking you,
household.
what do you believe? Do you personally believe that a woman should obey her husband?
I don't like the word obey. I believe in communication, collaboration, and whatever makes the most sense for your household. So if the husband wants to lead the household and the woman believes that's what makes the most sense for their household and they come to an agreement on that, a meeting of the minds, and they agree that's how their household should be ran, then that's how it should be ran. But again, I believe in meeting of the minds, communication, and collaboration. Whatever works for one might not work for another family unit. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors in somebody's home. So whatever makes the most sense for their marriage to succeed is what they should do.
Amazing. You don't like the word obey, you say?
Yeah, obey sounds, again, I believe women are equal to men. So we're just going to disagree on that.
And so what's wrong with the word obey?
Because obey sounds like an authority.
It is.
And I
A
don't
dictator.
Yeah, and my
And
husband
being
should not
supposed
be a
to
dictator.
dictate in the home.
Completely disagree.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you close to your father now? Mm-hmm. Did you forgive him for leaving you with your mother?
Yeah.
You said what?
Did I forgive my dad? Sure.
For leaving you with your mother, letting her destroy you like that?
I'm not destroyed.
You're not?
What about this? I'm not destroyed.
Really? Where did your anger come from
What anger?
that you have?
What anger?
Do you have anger?
No.
You have no anger.
Anger about what?
Do you ever get angry?
Have I ever felt the emotion anger? Yes.
And where did that come from?
What, me ever feeling angry? When
How
something
did you
upset me?
how did you develop the emotion of anger?
Just like any other normal person. If something's upset me, I have a full spectrum of emotions. I feel very happy, I feel peaceful, I feel joyful. There are some times where I feel sad. There's some times where I feel upset, I feel angry, I feel scared, I feel frightened, I feel anxious. We all have a very wide variety of emotions that we all can experience.
Is that a normal way to live?
Absolutely.
Really?
You should be able to be emotionally intelligent and be able to identify
See, this
how
is
you're
different.
feeling.
This is different between men and women. It's abnormal for a man to be emotional. Any man that has anger is a woman, because you know how the mothers pass their identities to the children. She recreate them in her image, and so any man that have an emotions is that of his mother, and that's why he has to overcome it so he can bring his woman out of that kind of hell. That's a hard way to live, to have all those.
That's the best way to live, and I think more men should be emotionally intelligent and be able to experience emotions other than just happy and angry.
But emotions are evil.
Why?
Because they're of your father, the devil.
Okay, well, we can move on because I just completely disagree with that.
You do?
Yeah.
Are you a Christian?
Yeah, I grew up Christian.
Well, Christ said that a woman should obey her husband. Was he wrong too?
Sure.
Christ was wrong?
Yeah.
The God you believe in was wrong when he said that.
Sure.
Amazing. Are you a millennial?
Yeah.
Oh, you're a millennium. Oh, I see. Have you ever organized anything for Black Lives Matter?
No.
Oh, good. What's your impression of that group?
I think they were doing good work.
Like what, for example?
Well, the best thing that came out of Black Lives Matter is that people are being more aware of what was going on with police brutality and how a lot of Black people were being treated at the hands of police and being unjustly killed. So for nothing else, I'm sure that, we've heard a lot of things about the organization itself, but the movement itself is a powerful one, and it was a necessary one at the time.
So you agree with them destroying statues and monuments and setting fires to businesses and people getting killed? There was some Black police officers that were killed as a result of that. You agree with all that?
It was not what I would have personally done, but, do you, boo?
And why wouldn't you have done it personally?
Because that's just not what I would have did.
I'm sorry?
That's just not what I would have done. But again, there was a lot of heightened emotion at the time of the country. People felt like that was the only way that they could be heard, and that was the only way to release their frustrations at the time. So people handled things differently.
Interesting. There's something else interesting on your website. On your website, it says that Soul Strategies acknowledge that the District of Columbus is traditional territory of, what's that?
It's a bunch of Native Americans.
What?
It's just a bunch of Native Americans.
Of the Indians, right? You believe that?
Yeah.
That the District of Columbus belonged to the Indians? Why do you believe that?
Because it's true.
Why?
This land was not ours. It's just true.
Meaning that it wasn't the blacks,
What?
this land. When you say ours, you mean it wasn't who you're referring to when you said?
Before any of us got here, the Native Americans were here. So that's just acknowledging that.
Why were the blacks unable to respect? Why is it that the blacks are willing to go along with that idea with the Indians, but they don't seem to respect the traditions of the whites?
I don't know what you're asking me.
Do you respect the traditions of the whites?
Like what?
Independence, celebrating 4th of July because you believe America is great?
I believe it has its issues. That's its issues.
Do you believe that it's the greatest country on this side of heaven?
No.
You don't?
No.
Why not?
We have a lot of issues.
Like what? What's your issues?
Too much corruption. Okay, there's a lot of corruption in this country. We still are the richest nation in the world, but still don't have access to universal health care. Our education has gone down the pooper. Okay, our public education is not doing well. It's not funded.
That's true. Yeah.
So we're not competing on a national scale anymore as far as education goes. There's a lot of things that's wrong. Do I love living here? Yes. Do I love being a Texan? Absolutely.
Is there another state, another country in the world that's greater than America?
Sure.
Who?
I don't know. I have no idea. I live here.
So you said sure. Listen, one other thing I want to ask you about, something about the Republican being bad. Do you believe that the Republican Party is a bad party for the blacks?
Yeah.
In what way?
The racism is enough for me.
Well, I haven't seen racism since I've been on this earth. What does racism look like?
You, growing up in Jim Crow, Alabama, have never seen racism.
As a matter of fact, when I was growing up, the word didn't even exist at all until the Civil Rights Movement started, which was a mistake. The word racism didn't even exist.
That doesn't mean it wasn't happening.
So what does racism look like?
What do you mean?
How do you recognize it when you see it?
Discrimination, bias, even some of the things that you've said. You have a lot of internalized racism.
I do?
Absolutely. So
Like
even
what?
just saying like somebody's Black American name, if it sounds Black, that means they're going to bring you trouble. That's racist.
Look, I know black folks, And I know that the reason they changed their name to black names is because they hate white people. They hate America. And since knowing that, why would I want to intentionally bring trouble into my own company that I had to build? You know what I'm saying?
Internalized racism, you have it. A lot of it.
Protecting my company is internalized racism?
No, but assuming that somebody has bad intentions just because they have a black sounding name is racist.
That's amazing. Racism doesn't exist. Our battle is a spiritual battle. It's a warfare between good and evil.
Sure.
Right versus wrong. It's not physical, it's spiritual. And those people who have anger are evil. Those who don't have anger are good. So there's a battle going on inside and outside, inside of others. It has nothing to do with color.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
I disagree with that.
You disagree with that too?
Absolutely.
I thought you were a Christian.
What does that mean? What does it have to do with racism?
But Christians
existing?
should understand that racism does. Even God said that our battle is not physical, it's spiritual. Was he lying?
So you do a lot of black and white thinking. Just because something is in the Bible does not mean that racism doesn't exist.
So God was lying about that?
God wasn't, that could be true. There could be a battle of flesh and blood and whatever, and then there
No,
also
it's
could
not
be
a battle of
racism.
flesh and blood. It's a spiritual battle. Was God lying about that?
Sure, there's a spiritual battle, but there's also racism. You can have both.
Racism doesn't exist. It
So you-
really doesn't.
Okay, I completely disagree with that.
Really?
Absolutely.
In a Newsweek podcast, you mentioned you felt like the Republican Party is more destructive toward your community than the party you currently support, and that the Republicans are not going to save us. Why do black people feel like why do the blacks, that's what hit me the most. Why do black people always feel like they need to be saved?
I don't think they do.
But then that's what they're fighting for, to be saved. There was
Not
this
to be saved, but to be treated equal. There's no, so in that particular article, the context is people were talking about people leaving, should people leave the Democratic Party to go to the Republican Party to find something? And I was saying no. I don't think whatever you're looking for, whatever way that you're trying to be included in the political process, you're not going to get it over there. But again, I can acknowledge that the Democrats too have not done a great job. But is the Republicans going to do a better job? No.
What do the blacks want from the whites? When will enough be enough?
I don't know what that means.
What do they want? What do y'all want from the whites?
Y'all, because you're black. So what do we?
No, I take care of myself. I don't want anything.
Are
from
you
them.
not black?
I'm black as the ace of spades, but I'm independent. And so what do the blacks want, and when will it be enough?
Blacks want to be treated equally like everybody else.
And what does that mean?
To have access to the same things, to not have to deal with systemic racism. This country has a very deep history with certain things. So I don't think we're looking at the whites wanting anything. Like, there's nothing that I want from the whites. Society needs a makeover, and it's a race issue, but it's a class issue. There's a political corruption issue. There's a lot of issues that are happening just systemically in a country. And yes, sometimes we do put too much emphasis on race, but that doesn't mean racism doesn't exist. But there's a class issue. There's a lot of poor white people that don't have access to education and healthcare, even broadband to even get on the internet. So there's a lot of issues that this country needs to focus on that affect a lot of us.
Well, the reason that the education system, public education, is no good because the teachers and the unions are no good. They put a lot of money in the classrooms, but the teachers and the union use it for other things other than to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. And then the parents don't care. The black parents don't care about their children. They got to go to work. They got to be partying. They got to be shaking their butts around, right? They don't care about the children. So it's not that they don't have the money. It's just no good parents and teachers and unions. Have you noticed that?
I disagree. The public schools aren't being funded in the same way that
No,
they
they're
used to
being
be.
funded.
They're not. You can look.
As a matter of fact, they get more money now than they did in the past.
That's just not true. A lot of private schools are getting more money, and a lot of people are taking their kids out of the public schools, putting them into private schools, and then
Nice.
putting their resources into the private schools, leaving the public schools barren and not, with the access or the budgets that they used to have, which causes them to suffer.
Do you know that's not true?
It's true.
No, I haven't worked in the schools before, and I know people
My
who work
mom was
for
a
the
teacher
school.
for 27 years.
And I
My
have
aunt
good
is a
friends
teacher,
who are
35
teachers
years.
and principals at these schools, and they tell me how much money that's there. It's just that the parents don't care. The black parents don't even show up at PTA meetings. They out trying to get love, and they don't care, and the teachers don't care. They're teaching everything but reading and writing and arithmetic. Do you support, what's the name of that stupid stuff they're teaching now? Critical race theory?
They're not teaching critical race theory.
Do you support that?
It's not being taught. So this whole thing came out of nowhere.
No, it is
it's
being taught.
It was
Some
taught on a
teachers are doing it
collegiate-
even though they're told not to do it.
It was taught on a master's level, collegiate level. And then we took a narrative and started running with it. There was never CRT in kindergarten class, I promise you. It just wasn't happening.
You don't seem to know about what's really going on.
I do
Because
know.
you don't know that it's being taught anyway.
It's just not being
You
taught.
don't know that this school get buku money. You don't seem to
They don't.
really know.
I know
You don't
a lot.
even know that prior to the civil rights movement, there was no such word as racism that came about so that they can control the blacks.
Mm-hmm. I know a lot. I just disagree with you. So we just have different opinions on things. But the things that I know, you're talking about education. I come from a long line of educators. My aunt, who is my surrogate mother, as my mom passed away, has been in Dallas ISD for 35 years. My mother was a teacher for 27 years. My cousins are all teachers for some of them over a decade. Some of them are just getting started. I taught. So I've been involved in particularly Dallas ISD, and my family
And your
has
point is
for
what?
years. So I know what I'm talking about, just like you.
No, I'm telling you, they get the money. But
Okay.
we'll go on from that. Did you vote for the Great White Hope?
To the what? What is that?
You don't know who the Great White Hope is?
No.
Donald Trump.
No, I didn't vote for Donald Trump.
Would you be voting for him this time around?
No,
Why not?
I don't support him.
Why not?
I just don't.
Are you for open border where all the illegal aliens and drugs and things are just flowing into our country?
No,
You're not for that? You're not for open borders?
I'm not for open borders.
Nice.
Nobody is.
The Democratic Party is.
They're not. And if you know what Biden's been doing, his border policy and Trump's is nearly identical. Some of Biden's border policies are even more harsher than Trump's. So
Meaning what? Give me an example of one.
the same thing as they're going on the border right now. It's the same exact things that was happening when Donald Trump was there. Nothing has changed.
Really? You don't know that the borders are wide open. They stopped building the fence that the Great White Hope was building.
So when you say borders
and
are
that
wide, do we no longer have
Joe
customs?
Biden told everybody to come on in, and they're coming from all over the world.
That's insane.
Are you aware of that?
So there's no longer
Are
customs.
you aware of that, though?
Is ICE gone?
Are you aware of that?
That's
First,
not true. I'm asking you, is ICE gone? Because last time I checked, we still have ICE.
for the most part, they're unfunded now, and they need more workers.
Do we not have
But
customs
did you know
anymore?
that the borders are wide open right now?
There's no more customs agents right now at the borders? Like our customs and the gates and everything, it's gone?
Yeah, for the most part.
It's not.
You don't know about all that, though?
That's not true.
Wow.
Customs is still
I
there.
believe you when you don't believe it, because I noticed that a lot of millennials, they don't really know what's going on. They just go about what they hear or the little bit that they do hear, and they don't know what's really going on. When the Great White Hope was there as president, did the country change for the best or worse?
This country has been on a downward spiral since 2016. Okay. That's a fact.
And what's the downward spiral?
We are becoming more hateful than ever. We're more polarized than ever.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's just not, the world was in a much better place before then.
I agree to that. We're more divided over stupid stuff than ever before in the history of America, like racism.
Sure.
It's just so dumb that human beings, think about this, human beings allow somebody to tell them that racism exists while dividing the people in order to gain money and perceive power for themselves. And you have human beings fighting each other over so-called racism, over color, which is not important at all, zero important, and importance. And human beings are fighting. Isn't that like dumb when you think about it?
Yeah, we shouldn't be fighting.
And why do they do it then?
Why are they fighting?
Yeah.
It's a distraction. I mean, I agree again.
Yeah.
We could say we can half agree and half disagree.
Yeah.
Should we be fighting each other? Should we be this polarized? No, because a lot of the issues that we all need. So it's not a race thing, some things.
Would you ever date a white guy?
Yeah.
You love white people?
Yes. I'm not racist. What? Yeah.
You do love white people?
I love white people. I love black people. I love everybody.
How
I don't
about white
discriminate.
people?
Yes, I love my business partner Z is white. Did you know that?
Ooh. Is he a liberal as well?
She's a liberal as well.
Oh, she's a liberal? Oh, amazing. What is a woman?
A woman is a woman.
I can't hear you.
A woman is a woman.
And a woman, and what is it exactly?
A woman is somebody who identifies as a woman.
With what?
Who identifies as a woman. That's
Identify? Identify or born as a woman?
Identify. Your sex is what you're assigned at birth. Your woman, being a woman is your identity.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you were born as a woman by God, right?
Sure.
That's your sex. Are you saying that?
Sure.
But then if you were born as something else other than a woman, you decide you want to act and be like a woman, are you saying that's a real woman?
I am.
You were saying that's
Yes.
even though they don't have they weren't born with the woman stuff? You joking me?
I believe it.
You tell me the truth when the cameras are, right?
I'm telling you the truth right now.
Your mother know you think this way?
My mother passed away.
Oh, may her soul rest in peace. Were you thinking this way before she expired?
Yes.
Does your father know you think this way?
Yes.
You close to him?
Yes.
What does he say about that?
He agrees.
He agree with you that if a person think that they're something else, they're that. Are you surprised your father agree with that?
No.
Normally women agree with that.
I'm not surprised.
And why not?
Because my daddy is hip. He's cool.
Oh, yeah. He's hip. Okay. One last thing, and then I got to put you on the hot seat. Heat this thing. I need you to answer these questions as quickly as possible, right? I noticed that women don't have it because of the way they were born, raised, the order of God, God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, and woman over children, right? You know about that order, right? You heard about it. You may not agree with it, but you heard about it, right? It's not in the woman's nature to lead. She was created to follow. And in knowing that, why do they try to pretend that women are leaders when it's not even in her to lead?
That's just not true. And I can't even go into that with you because that's just not true. There are many women leaders who have done a great job. I just completely disagree.
I got to heat this thing up. I need you to answer these questions as quickly as possible for me, all right?
The Hot Seat.
What is a man?
A man is somebody who identifies as a man.
Is God real?
Yes.
Do you believe in the theory of evolution?
Yeah.
You believe in evolution? Have you ever seen an ape turn into a human being?
No.
Is it better to be raised by a single mother or a single father?
There's no better.
I'm sorry?
There's no one that's better than the other.
True or false? Abortion is worse than slavery.
What kind of questions are these? What kind of questions are these? It's NA.
What?
NA. I don't have an answer for that.
Oh. Beyonce or Rihanna?
Rihanna.
Is America the best country on this side of heaven?
It's cool.
Who would you rather see as president? Hunter Biden, Hillary Clinton, Kanye West, Will Smith, or Donald Trump?
Hillary. Yeah.
Hillary? Does a chicken have lips?
No.
Is it okay for a black man to love the Confederate flag?
No.
No? But you say you believe in freedom.
Yeah. You ask me what I believe, if I think it's okay. I'm not saying he's not allowed to. I'm saying, do I think it's okay? He can do whatever he wants.
Amazing. Did you have fun?
It was interesting.
Thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome. Thanks
Tell
for
the folks how
having
to
me.
get to your website and catch up with what you're doing.
Yes, you can find us at soul-strategies.com and Soul Strategies on social media everywhere.
Amazing. Thank you again. And thank you all for tuning in. I absolutely appreciate it. Don't forget that The Fallen State is now on locals.com. So click into the link to get to the description there. And you can become a member of The Fallen State. Another way to support it on our YouTube channel. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. And thank you again for coming.
Thank you.
I totally appreciate it. That was fun, huh?
Yeah. You're nuts.